This video describes how to install a rear spoiler on a 2019 through 2021 Mazda 3 hatch. The whole process took about 2 hours, but the results are well worth it for the added look. These are the tools I ended up using: a 10mm socket, wrench, extension, flathead screwdriver, a stepper bit, which I've marked the sizes that you should step drill in. It just makes drilling a lot cleaner than using bits. And you're gonna need super glue for the bolts, as they say not to use Loctite. You're gonna need some decent towels as well when you do this process to lay the spoiler down on so it doesn't get scratched, as well as a microfiber cloth. Prior to starting, give the car a good wash down and cleaning to make sure all surfaces don't have any dust, dirt, or any oils. Take a 10mm socket wrench and disconnect the negative terminal of the battery. This will keep the chime from telling you to turn the car back on, because the tailgate's going to be open for a very long time. With the battery disconnected, you're going to want to lay a towel over the rear locking latch on the back tailgate so you don't inadvertently lock your tailgate while the battery is disconnected. The instructions: remove the rear plastic cover. This will allow access to the retaining hardware that's holding the existing spoiler in place. You will end up modifying this spoiler to mount the new spoiler to it. Start at the outer edges of the cover and pry loose. Repeat the process for the left side or the right side, depending on which side you started. Once the outer edges are off, the unit will pop down, but the retaining clips in the middle, these ones here, will tend to stick a little harder. If you can get your finger underneath the unit, you should be able to work it loose like that by pulling down, trying to wedge your fingers just like I'm holding it there. This will sort of give you an idea of where all the clips are on the piece so that you know what you're pulling on, so you don't break anything loose. The rear wing comes with double-sided tape already added. Mazda does a pretty good job of this, and it actually saved me a lot of time because I didn't know whether it had tape on the unit or not. This is just to show you where on the rear tailgate, when the cover is removed, where all the wires and hardware is located. Next, remove the cover plugs on the tailgate. This will give you access to 3 of the hex nuts that hold the rear spoiler in place. Using a 10mm socket, remove the 3 lower hex nuts. Then remove the 2 upper hex nuts shown here. When removing any of the hex nuts to retain the stock spoiler in place, I can't say enough about having a telescoping magnet on hand. These will fall down inside the back of the tailgate, and it's a real pain in the ass to try to dig these out with your fingers. Also worth noting, if you have OCD like me, the rear spoiler that's on there won't fall off once you remove all the hardware, because there's several remaining clips you'll have to pop off or pry off. Next, you're going to want to disconnect the third light wire plug and unclip it from the top. Squeeze the clip that holds the harness in place, and then feed the harness through the hole in the tailgate. Now you're ready to remove the rear spoiler after heating it up per the instructions with a blow dryer. I sort of wedged my fingers in here, and I just kept working it until it finally gave. When it gives, a piece of plastic will break off and fall inside the tailgate. You'll hear this happen once I pry it loose.
There's nothing wrong.
After removing the outer clips, if the spoiler doesn't come off, it's most likely that there's a couple clips still sticking. If there are any clips that are still sticking, it'd be one of these blue ones. This is the view of the back of the spoiler after it's removed. These yellow clips just snap off. That's what you heard falling down inside the tailgate. And the 2 black ones at the outer edge are the ones that you end up heating up. They didn't break, just the yellow ones did, and they give you extra ones in the kit. Slide the broken clips out and throw them away. and then replace them with the clips the kit provides you with. The instructions state this, but it's not real clear, but the clips will actually only go in one way. So when you put them in, just make sure you put them in correctly. Next, what you're going to want to do after drilling a pilot hole is score this backside of the spoiler on each end with a Dremel, as I did. When you're drilling that pilot hole, be real careful because the distance between the top of that hole and the outside is real small, so apply light pressure when drilling. When finished scoring with the Dremel, just take a flathead screwdriver and pop that piece out and throw it in the garbage. Next, take a center punch and center punch the location shown here. Next, take your stepper bit and only drill about halfway down with the bit, and then check your hole to make sure you're on center still. Repeat the process for the other two remaining locations and verify they look good. Next, I just did a dry fit to make sure all the holes lined up with the new spoiler and adjusted the hole sizes if I needed to. Next, partially peel back the adhesive tape on the edges and then peel the tape at the tops fully off. The center one can be removed as well, and then repeat this process on both sides. Next, it makes this process a little bit easier to take the bottom spoiler with a partner to help you lift and align the two holes at the edges and the center hole because this tape will bond really fast, and then just kind of force it into place if you can. But if you have someone on the other end, it makes it a lot easier to see how close it is, and then just do it really slow. Take your time at this stage because you can really screw stuff up. And then press it into place like I'm doing here, and then just make sure the holes line up. I have tape on this, but you probably don't need tape at all. In my opinion, I think it was not needed because the holes pretty much drive where you're going to put this thing. And they give you templates, but I use those. I, again, don't think that they're needed. At this stage, I'm just taking the screws and I'm using them to pull the whole assembly together to allow that tape to bond. And then I'm just letting it sit there for a few minutes, and then I'm going to remove these, and then I'm going to add the super glue to the screws and allow them to cure for the final part of the assembly. So at this point, with the screws removed, I'm taking the additional back stripping off the tape and pulling it out of there. Just take your time with this because this stuff's kind of hard to pull out. It's very compressed at this point. And then just squeeze it down along the edges and then do the same on both sides. Prior to remounting, just make sure that all the blue tabs, these are all in place and the screws are all pushed over in the right position so that everything's kind of centered when you settle this thing down on top of the tailgate. Just make sure everything's good and in place the way it's supposed to be. With a partner, lift the entire assembly up, feed that cable through the hole, and try to line it up as best as you can. Just taking your time to make sure you don't break any of the clips off, and just eyeballing it to see where everything goes. Once everything's aligned, it should pop into place fairly easy. Just give it a gentle push with your palm, and it should snap down and lock in place. Lastly, what you want to do is you want to lift the tailgate back up and make sure there's no interferences, and do it real slow so nothing's popping or bumping up against the body of the car. Make sure everything's sort of secure as best as it can. Reconnect that wire harness for the third light and clip it in that little clip. Lastly, take the magnet or a socket, the 10mm, and put the fasteners back in. Repeat that for all the remaining 5 fasteners. I hope this video helped you guys out, and thanks for watching.